Somewhere beyond the recesses of time and space, two podcasters are set adrift in a machine, picking up transmissions of movies that are forgotten but not gone.
Welcome to Movie Memory Machine 5-4, the mini-series where we are connecting 5 films that are thematically related to the movie we're talking about on the main feed. I am your host, Landon Solano. Joined with me, as always, is Truman Caps.
Landon, it is my honor and my duty to be seen by you today. We're talking about Daniels The Butler, and I'm really interested to see, as a idiot who constantly brings politics and presidential history into our movie podcast, what presidential and historical movies you want to connect to this one.
I should have just picked 5 presidential biopics, and I didn't, and I regret that. Oh, man.
That makes 2 of us. But hey, let's go ahead with it anyway. I'm sure you have some good ideas.
All right. Let's start with our first film. I believe you said you hadn't seen this one.
Yes, I still have not seen the movie Selma, and that is to my great detriment because I've heard only the best things.
Yes, I have seen Selma, I think, 3 times now, and I checked it out for the main episode as a bit of research because it came out the year after The Butler. And this just does everything so much better as far as a history piece, a biopic. Like we talked about in The Butler, the problem with so many biopics is the skimming the stone off of the surface of history approach, and I just don't. That never satisfies me. It can't get into the depth of stories that you need to, and it just leaves very flat characters to me. This is the ultimate way to do it, which is pick a moment in time that defines a character. This completely surrounds the Selma incident in Martin Luther King's life.
Whereas The Butler was at its strongest in the moments where it tried to engage with the civil rights movement in the 60s and kind of give this overview of what the fictitious main character's son was going through. Selma dives directly into one thing and kind of puts all of its focus on that.
And one of the things that it comes from that approach is that you can get much deeper into the mindset and the emotion of a character with, events that are happening in sequence. Like, this movie begins with a house bombing of Martin Luther King. Yeah. And, that is sets up a mindset for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Whereas, The Butler is okay, this thing happened in his youth, and, you have to go to such great lengths to make that thematically mean something to anything else that happens to the character throughout the film.
Yeah. And I think that also, by covering so much time in The Butler, there are all these historical figures in the movie. You've got Eisenhower and Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson in there. But because we only get these brief glimpses of them, all of their lines basically have to be kind of broadly stating what historical event is going on. Whereas a movie like Selma, where you are more focused on one event, you will learn more about that character by just watching how they react moment to moment to something happening, which is really how you get a better sense of who a person is by seeing them reacting under pressure.
And you get Tom Wilkinson as LBJ, which is great. And it's such an overlap in the cast. As we said, there's Coleman Domingo, Cuba Gooding Jr., Oprah Winfrey, David Oyelowo. So many people doing work in both films that it makes it impossible not to draw the comparison to go, oh, yeah, well, when you actually have a story and a sequence to hang a performance on, rather than that performance of that scene being in a vacuum. Yeah, this is what you can do.
Yeah. Great.
All right.
Solid recommendation. I promise I'll watch it.
Moving on to the next one I'm curious if you've seen.
No. All the Way, starring Bryan Cranston as Lyndon Johnson. Look, I'm a huge Lyndon Johnson fan. A domestic policy Lyndon Johnson fan, foreign policy, not so much. But no, I've not seen this movie, but I remember when it came out thinking I need to earmark this.
Yeah, this is, I believe, an HBO original, so I don't know that it hit the theaters.
I'm just now seeing with the information that's up here in front of me about All the Way, which is a movie about Lyndon Johnson's relationship with Martin Luther King Jr. This movie was directed by Jay Roach, who also directed Austin Powers 2: The Spy Who Shagged Me, a film that unfortunately I have seen quite a few times.
Yeah.
Talk
More
about
than
that. Talk about that. Oh, man, okay, Meet the Fockers, Goldmember, Dinner for Schmucks. Oh, he's directed all the Austin Powers.
All the Austin Powers, yes.
And then a movie about Dalton Trumbo. Wow. Interesting. Very, very, very unexpected.
So just thematically connected, like this is another one that focuses on a period of time, a very specific window in which to look at these characters. And so this is much more of like, I actually think this might be based on a stage play. I should probably do that research before I say that on air so I don't sound so ignorant. But it's really about a series of conversations these two have and trying to move each other on policy, you know. And it really hinges on performance.
Yeah.
And you get Anthony Mackie as MLK here. What I find is like watching different actors embody the same character, the same real life character, what they bring to it, what they choose to highlight in it. Selma is obviously, you know, a much more textured and complex characterization of MLK. Anthony Mackie is like, what do you need to know for these conversations?
Yeah.
But to me, this says more about the civil rights conversation, especially in regards to the White House, than a movie that tries to talk about civil rights over the course of time.
Yeah. Well, and I think it paints just a more interesting portrait of the whole situation because you have a man like Lyndon Johnson who was immensely racist personally, and what the process was to get this asshole to come around on spending so much political capital on civil rights is a fascinating story that just The Butler hints at but does not touch.
And Melissa Leo playing Lady Bird in The Butler and never shows up except in the trailer, does show up as Lady Bird in this film.
Man, typecast as Lady Bird.
All right, moving on to the next film.
The Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. I've not heard of this.
Oh, okay. I think it's a TV movie, and this is very much about civil rights through the years, through the ages, through different periods of American history, as seen through the experience of one person, the titular Miss Jane Pittman, as played by Cicely Tyson.
Oh, interesting.
Who is one of, just like hands down, one of the best performances in this type of movie there is. You see her in like really sophisticated old age makeup toward the end. I think they bookend it. You know, it does fall into the biopic thing where you see her at, you know, an old age and then go back and then we catch back up. But this is another one that's just like, how do we show the progression of civil rights through the eyes of one specific character, without the gimmicks of bringing in different people playing the president.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think that also when you're showing this story about the passage of time and the passage of the civil rights era through the eyes of someone who is on the ground and experiencing the actual day-to-day effects of it, it is ultimately going to be a more visceral and kind of more gripping story than showing it through the eyes of somebody who is serving coffee to people having high-level academic and policy-based conversations about it. I mean, this is just going to feel more real because you've got someone who's boots on the ground.
Anyway, so if you want that, like, that rock skipping over the surface of history style of filmmaking, this one is much more emotionally resonant, I think, than The Butler. It does the same thing, just better. Just 100% better.
Great. That's a solid recommendation.
Well, let's move on to a more controversial one.
Oh, boy. Oh, Malcolm X. Okay. This is just a real bonanza of movies I haven't seen, which really says something about how much I need to educate myself on the civil rights era and the films about it.
I realize Spike Lee is a acquired taste for a lot of people. I really enjoy a lot of his films. I just watched The Five Bloods recently, which I feel like is a movie that is designed to test people's do I push play on this or not? Like I know so many people who've had that in their Netflix queue and just has lingered there for years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it takes on new it takes on new significance now after we lost Chadwick Boseman a few years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So Spike Lee is he's a really there's no nuance to what he's doing. He has something to say, and he's going to use his film to say it and be unapologetic about it. And his filmmaking is on the nose, a little experimental without like refinements, and I like that. You know, and Malcolm X is just, to me, you can argue all day long about what his masterpiece is, and yes, it is Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing slaps, yeah.
Yeah. Malcolm X is not to be overlooked. This is just such a compelling performance by Denzel Washington. It's just a look that gets into the character of Malcolm X outside of his politics through the eyes of Spike Lee, which I think the comparison to The Butler is it's Lee Daniels The Butler.
Yeah.
Every film that Spike Lee does, it's a Spike Lee joint.
Of course.
Yes, this is called Malcolm X, but it really should be like Spike Lee's Malcolm X.
Yeah. Well, and also, you know, you've said that this movie really kind of delves into Malcolm X's personal life and tries to establish him also as a human being separate from the political work that he was doing, which is, I think, what The Butler wants to be doing with some of these presidents who are being served by The Butler. But at the end of the day, because of the expansive view they're taking, we only ever really see the presidents as people who are sitting in their office, summarizing the current hot-button political issue, and then kind of making one cryptic statement that alludes to how they feel about it.
Yeah, and Malcolm X being conspicuously absent from The Butler.
Yes. Something that got cut on the way to the screen.
All right, moving on to our last film, one that I just highly recommend people go check out.
John Lewis, Good Trouble. Okay. You know what? I missed this one. I was not aware. Is this a documentary?
Documentary, just kind of covering the life of John Lewis, civil rights activist, and
member of Congress.
Yeah. The documentary is like not one that pushes the like format in any way, really. Like it's you've seen the type of documentary before, but it is 100%. To me, that highlights the compelling nature of the subject matter.
Yeah.
That this film is so good.
Well, yeah, and also when the subject of your documentary is someone who has been through as much and who did as much as John Lewis did, the format of your documentary doesn't need to be flashy or innovative if you're just following a really inspirational figure who had such an influence across such a wide range of history and politics and civil rights. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like much like the fake character in The Butler and his very long life across all these different presidencies, John Lewis was out there doing the more exciting story for real.
Yeah. So I mean, before you press play on The Butler, definitely check out John Lewis, Good Trouble. I mean, this is just an incredible film documenting just like such a compelling life. And it's only like good documentaries are. It's just the like starting point. It's the 101. You want to go do a deeper dive on this man after you see the documentary.
Great choice.
Well, that is the 544 Lee Daniels, The Butler. For Truman Caps, I've been Landon Solano.
And for Landon Solano, I've been Lee Daniels, Truman Caps.
See you next week.
Movie Memory Machine is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/gruntworkpod to keep the machine running. Theme song by Porky's Groove Machine. Rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. For more information on today's show, visit MovieMemoryMachine.com.